system, basically, where is this happening and how is it done currently, system wise? That's a question to VGH.
Sorry, what was that you were asking? Where we book currently?
Yeah. So how do can you kind of break that down? Where are you booking to, what system, and kind of the any other intricate details of that process? You're booking, I know that you're booking new patients in follow-up.
Yeah, it's in PCIS right now. And so I'll get like a referral sheet or a follow-up form from Alana. And then from there, they're booked by like next available appointment.
Got it.
Yeah.
Next available kind of scanning of the system to see what's and is everything pretty full up until that next available appointment, or how far out does that kind of stack?
So we do reminder calls a week before the actual appointment. So up until that point, everything's booked. But if I call and there's cancellations, then slots do open up.
And then when they do open up, you're reaching out to
whoever would be able to take it, honestly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. That kind of brings me to that third question, cutover prep. Roughly how many appointments are booked, like say from today forward?
I think for the next month and a half they're booked. So towards the end of March, everything's booked.
Okay. And patient wise, any way to tell, or is that tricky?
How many referrals and such? No, I have the numbers somewhere. Let me just find them for you. So there's 38 follow-ups.
Okay.
And then there's around 70 referrals that need to be booked, new referrals.
That need to be booked but aren't booked, right?
Yeah, there's just not space. So they're like different levels as well.
Okay. And that's where that wait list, that thing I have noted here, priority 1, 2, and 3. Can you, how does that work? What do you manage them all in one place, and how are you able to see those different priorities in your current system?
The current system is a file folder. So Alana brings back the referrals after I've registered them and she's triaged them. And then I file them into 1, 2, or 3. And then I book them according to the date and according to the priority.
Thanks. And so that sequencing or sorry, prioritization of 1, 2, and 3 is essential. Okay. And then the last question I have there is, are you relying on any or many scheduling reports currently?
I am not sure what you mean by that.
Are you using any kind of statistical based reports in your daily process? Do you do any kind of anything that you're printing currently from a scheduling perspective, not talking face sheets and stuff like that, but anything that you're using in your current system for reporting?
The only thing the clerks would print is a day sheet, like potentially to give to the provider, but not all providers need or want that. So there's no regular sort of printing that is done in the clinic.
Would that include stickers though? Like OA stickers and CC cards?
No, not stickers, no.
Awesome. Thank you. So let's get a quick look at the appointment book. The example that I'm going to use today is SPH, Healthy Heart Rehab. So
let me pause for just 2 seconds. I just want to think he's logging into her computer, and she's new to Cerner, so I want her to be able to see this. I think this is really for her. Sorry.
Awesome. No worries.
So are you on now, Pinky?
I'm on. I'm listening.
Oh, perfect. Okay, good.
And Pinky, can you see the screen as well?
Yes. I can, thank
Great.
you.
No worries. So what you're looking at here is the scheduling appointment book. And again, from our screen print, we're looking at the bookshelf tab. There's two tabs here. This is the bookshelf tab. This is a way of getting to our schedules, a way of viewing what we have booked currently. There's not a lot of going on in this build domain. Normally what you'll see in a live environment, especially after hearing your system, your current state, you're going to see a stack of this kind of teal color throughout the day booked to your resource or resources. And that's going to kind of represent appointments that are in a confirmed state. Down below here, you also see a group appointment. So this is actually a group session that I set up today. I set it up as a recurring session. We'll get into the kind of details of this because I know you expressed some interest around group appointments. What groups allow you to do is book more than one patient to a session at a given time. So this is one resource that we're looking at. And I set it up so that 10 patients could book to that session for a given time. You can see capacity is 10, number scheduled. I don't have anything booked there yet. And so scheduling is done on the appointment tab, and we also schedule from what we call request lists. Request lists are how we get our orders to scheduling, how our appointments come across from the ordering side. So when we're talking referrals, we're talking follow-ups from a provider, they come to us through these requests. And so what requests are appointments that are kind of sitting there ready to be booked with some of the details already filled out for us. You know, ordering provider, reason for exam. What you see here are appointments that are ready to be booked. I have one on this request list that I added manually just so that we can see the booking process. So this is a cardiac rehab intake appointment, and I'm going to go ahead and right click complete request. So when I say complete request, it essentially gets the appointment in a ready to be booked state. So this is when we could then use what you're used to looking for first available. We use suggest. So that's going to scan the system for any open time slots. And it allows you to, and apologies, it's kind of opening on another screen here. What suggest allows you to do is put in your criteria. So say patient could only come on Tuesdays, but it doesn't matter what Tuesday, in the next, let's say in the next month, go ahead and find me the next available appointments. And you can see for Healthy Heart, there's quite a few resources that are available to handle an intake appointment type. There's other suggest criteria. There's also some preferences. So if you only wanted it to show you the very next available appointment, your number of suggestions would be 1. This is all customizable, and it will stick with each time you come into the appointment book. The suggest criteria is more kind of on the fly. I want the system to look, for this patient that I'm currently looking at. So if I double click on that and say, okay, the appointments, you can see that the appointments turned red up in the work in progress, and that means it's ready to confirm. And that's when we'll kind of finalize the registration process. The more intricate demo and kind of customized demo for your department will happen during design, and then we'll kind of comb through that a little bit more there. You'll get more experience here in the appointment book. I just wanted you to kind of see how this works. That appointment's ready to be confirmed, and if I confirm it, it would change this color down here. Are there any questions with pulling an appointment off the request list and starting the booking process?
I have a question about the group appointments. How would you check in each individual patient when they're all clumped together there?
So, and we'll have a look at this, maybe not today, but at some point. When you say you have 10, 12 patients there, if you right click on that and do an action of check in, it allows you to multi-select the patients. So you can kind of do that in a one step. Now some of the registration pieces may require, a look at least at each of the patients as you're going through, but it does allow you to check in all at one time.
Okay. Thanks.
Yep. And so let's have a quick look at booking. We're going to book and confirm a patient for this group session. So that was an individual session that we were booking. I'm going to actually book a group session. Let's go through with that. So you can see for this Healthy Heart clinic, they have a handful of group sessions set up. These group sessions are built this way by the CST team. The sessions themselves are actually set up within your clinic. So that's how I want to take a quick moment before we actually book a patient. This component here where you're going through and setting up the sessions is done within your clinic. So say you have 6 months worth of group sessions that are going to happen. You're going to have the capability to right click down here in the appointment book, actions, and create your, where are we at? Right click, group session, create. So the sessions get created within the appointment book. You have the ability to recur those sessions. Recur meaning you can set it up for 6 months, a year. You can go out as far as your schedules actually are applied. What you're seeing here in the background, these slots, these are managed by CST, but group sessions themselves are managed within the clinic. We'll set them up for you as we roll the clinic out, and before cutover, before we start to do any group session booking, if we decide to use group, we'll help you get those set up. We'll teach you how to use them, but I want you to kind of differentiate the slot arrangement of these resources is done by us, and the group sessions, the management of the sessions is done within the appointment book. So it's done by you. And the beauty of that is it allows you to handle and modify and tweak those without needing to come through CST. Let's book a patient to this session that I have set up to the physiologist below. It's an exercise group, CST sketch. Sorry, the patient window's opening on a different screen. We'll go through with getting this booked. It's hanging on this MPI screen. And so if this group session had multiple options, so say you keep your group sessions very generic, for example, Provincial voice group session. If you create your session in that format, you have the ability when you're creating the sessions to get more granular. So what you're seeing here, rehab exercise group, is say you had a group session that is Tuesday and Thursday that was a Zoom session, and you had a different session for Monday that was in person. You could create those sessions, and those sessions would be an option for you here. You can see that they have this option disabled for Healthy Heart, but you can have the system look across those different sessions for you. Or say you had a session set up for spring 2023 and then a different session for summer. That's done here. That's also managed by your team when you create the actual groups. Maybe kind of getting a little bit too much information for this first session, but let's go ahead and step forward with booking. So you can see I have this session set up. The calendar over here is showing me what I have for availability. There's a session on Thursday, and I actually just set up the session starting today, the 13th, and I recurred it on every Monday, I believe, for the next 5 Mondays. So if I know this patient wanted to be involved in more than just, if I need them for 2 sessions, I would click the recur button, and I know I need this patient to be in at least 2 sessions, or if I needed them for the next 10 weeks, I would recur them using 10 here for instances. I'm going to kind of keep it simple. You can see the system added another option up there for us. It's telling us what days. So I know I need to book one on the 13th. I'm going to drag that down, and I'm going to book one on the 20th. Confirm that those 2 appointments. And if I jump back to the book, you can see now if I click that, there's 1 patient booked, 1 of 10 maximum, and it would show me the full list of patients here. You're also able to view these patients in Ambulatory Organizer. How that works is you pull up a group session resource, and you can see everything booked for that session for a given day. Is there any questions with the structure of these sessions? What I showed you just now is booking the session. The creation of the session is a little bit more of an intricate process, but we can go over that as well at some point. All right. Maybe we'll do that towards the end, the actual creation of the session, to show you how that's done here in the appointment book. What I'd like to do next is kind of jump over to our data collection sheet. 1 second. So data collection, and what you're seeing here on this is a simplified version of our data collection. This was some example data in the gray above. Down below is our data for your clinic. I've kind of pre-populated it just a bit. I wanted to quickly talk about the resourcing first. So resourcing anything that we're going to book time to, any person, room, any type of equipment. From what I gathered, everything seems to be booked to the SLP Alana Turner. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think that's correct.
Is that how it appears in your current system, or do you? I mean, what is the resource? The actual.
It says PVRC. It doesn't say Alana's name specifically.
Okay, and it is Alana the primary SLP and pretty much the only one that's working the clinic?
Yeah, she's the only one.
Okay, great. And so that takes me to the other question. Jumping back to the book, I want to talk about slots before we move on to Alana. So slots allow you to set certain time aside throughout the day for specific things. In this case, let's look at the physiologist. You can see that they have the very generic yellow healthy heart rehab slot for part of the day. And then this particular resource has exit or follow-up slot designated starting at 9 o'clock for three appointments. This is something where if you know there's certain times for the day that you need certain things to happen, or if you're trying to manage the amount of new patients, anything like that, we need to build that into the actual slot types within the schedule. Is there anything like that, or do you keep everything very wide open? Because it is slightly restricting if you do start to customize slots within your schedule.
I think the only time where patients aren't being slotted in is between 8 and 9.
And is that kind of like, is that like an admin time?
Yeah.
Okay. So let's build that in that way. And so how this will work is once we gather this again, we'll gather today. We will, Raj and I will take this away, build it, and then during the design session, we'll actually look at how your data is structured. We won't be completely married to that design. That's the purpose of our next session, is just to kind of hash out all the additional details. So I'll start 8 to 9, and then is there a lunchtime built in?
Yeah, it's 12 to 1.
Okay. Daily admin.
Also, I have a question about slotting in
Mhm.
appointments. I know in the neurotology bookshelf, when you put it on a slot that starts like 10:30 or 11:30, you
Mhm.
have to do an override because
Yeah,
normally you have to start on the hour. Would that be the case here as well?
you can design that so that's actually we'll talk about that on our next tab.
Okay.
Do you tell me about new and follow-up, new versus follow-up in terms of the default duration that you like to book?
So new patients are always booked in for 90 minutes.
Mhm.
And then follow-ups are typically 30, but sometimes they can be 60 minutes.
Yep.
And then the appointment type differs too. So it can be a Zoom. It's either a Zoom appointment, in person, or a phone call.
Yep. Yep.
I think that's the only differences.
Okay. Zoom in person, or sorry,
Phone call.
phone call. And new patients, do they always come in?
No, new patients can be Zoom or in person.
Okay. Great. And so let's design out the structure of the schedule. That was a great question you had. So if we keep it wide open for Alana, and just pretending this is her day here, you want to default 90 for new, and then would we default 30 for follow-up? And then how would you know if you needed 60?
She would have made a note on the follow-up sheet.
Great. Okay. And so within that slot, if we keep it wide open in this way, do you get to decide how you want the start time interval to function. Normally, if something's going to book to the slot that's 90 and then another default is 30, we take the smallest common denominator and we say, let's allow booking on the 30-minute of the hour. So we would book at 8, 8:30, 9, etc. And that can be overridden, as you've seen in neuro-otology. You can override that, but it's kind of a nice guide to structure that start time interval in a way that works for you. You could keep it really general and say 5 minutes, but then you start when you're using first available, the system will return those kind of strange 5-minute intervals, 8:05, 8:10, etc.
Mhm.
It's kind of what it comes down to is, how do you want first available to scan for you in terms of looking out into the future?
When you're looking for next available, can
Mhm.
you specify that you're looking for an appointment for either a new patient or a follow-up patient?
Yeah, so before you get to suggest, you'll have your new or follow-up ready to go, and then you click suggest. So you're gonna already have that appointment type picked out.
Okay. So then you wouldn't need to say it was a new
Mhm.
patient. It would know that you're going for a 90-minute slot and you
Exactly.
wouldn't need to override anything, right?
Exactly. Yeah, it's
Okay.
looking for 90. It's scanning for the next 90-minute chunk within this. Now, here's where the start time interval comes into play. If you're looking for 90 minutes within this slot and you had your start time interval to only allow you to book every 60, well, it could potentially miss, um, 90 and 60 is not a great example, but basically it's going to potentially miss the opportunity of a slot if the start time interval is there restricting your booking. The better example is if you were scanning for a follow-up and you were only allowing it to book you every 60 minutes and you only need 30, well, it's not going to find the 30 for you.
Okay. I just lost my train of thought. Never mind.
No worries. So what we would recommend basically is if you're going to be scanning for 30s and 90s, is to either start with a 30-minute start, have it set up for a 30-minute start time interval, or 15 even works. Where it's going to get kind of interesting and sorry, where it's going to get where your questions are going to come in is when it's looking out beyond your full schedules. So when it starts to see those wide open days, how do you want it to function out there? How do you want it to start stacking your appointments on an empty day?
I think my question is, though, you don't always have to rely on the suggest function, do you?
Exactly.
Like,
No.
okay.
Yep. But even in non-suggest booking, so even in drag and drop booking, you're going to get that message
The
based
override
on
message.
based on that start time interval. So if you had a 60-minute start time interval right here, which means you'd only be allowed to book at 8, 9, 10, etc. If you tried to drag your follow-up to 8:30, it's going to give you a message. Hey, start time interval is 60 minutes. Do you want to override or choose a different position? And suggest won't even find 8:30 for you.
Okay.
So it's slightly restricting, but it's also a good guide for booking to have that start time interval built in.
Yeah. I
And
think
again, we can do it
probably,
during design. We can do something now, have a look, see how it works during design, and then easily tweak that.
yeah, I think what suggest too, maybe that would only be useful when you're trying to slot in like random follow-ups rather than booking multiple appointments at once. Because like you said too, with days that are wide open, I think those would be better to be booked manually
Yeah.
than with the suggest function.
Okay. I guess so. In current state now, do you keep anything restrictive in terms of start time interval? Like, do you or would you potentially book at 8:15 or 9:45?
No.
No. What's the structure now?
I feel like typically the morning is to new patients, so it's 9 o'clock and 10:30.
Got it.
And then after lunch, sometimes there's one new patient, and then after that, there's a series of phone call appointments. So that changes the structure.
Mhm.
But for the most part, unless I'm filling a cancellation slot, I think the morning always just has the two spots, the 9 and the 10:30.
Okay, so we could start with either 15 or 30 in terms of that start time interval. It,
I feel like
if
30 probably works better.
okay, 30 is good. And so the only thing you're going to run into issues is then when you start trying to book on the quarter hour, you'll see that message appear. So
Okay.
let's start with that. And so back to this question about specific time set up for new versus follow-up. Do you have any interest in embedding that so that those mornings are reserved for new? Or do you want that ability to kind of book anything wherever there's a slot?
I'd rather be able to fill whatever needs
Okay.
to be filled.
Okay. Let's go 48 patients daily. And then I'm going to put 30-minute start time.
When you're asking for the designations for each appointment, is that so that when I'm actually in the appointment book, when I click on new referral, it automatically, when I go to drag and drop, will say that it's a 90-minute appointment?
Yep. Yep.
Okay,
So referrals are going to come across to whether you're booking it directly in the appointment book or you're seeing it as a request on the request list. They're going to come over and find a new patient appointment type.
okay,
And so news will have in the background, we'll have 90 minutes just already as the default duration.
mhm,
And the follow-ups will say, we'll start with 30 and you can override those to 60.
okay.
And then tell me about the interest in group sessions. So what's within your clinic, what would function as a group session and in the future? What are we, sorry, I remember, I knew that came up during our earlier ambulatory requirements gathering, but we didn't go too far down that road.
I actually don't know anything about that. Tiana, maybe
Okay.
you know better than I do. I don't know if she's there.
She just stepped out for a bit to help another clerk. She'll be back.
Okay. Sounds good. So pretty straightforward. One resource, two appointment types, 90, 30, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday schedule. I'm just jumping back to my notes here. Oh yeah. So the next thing within the appointment data collection is preps and appointment reminders that are also done through preps. Automated appointment reminders are the system that we use for phone call, email, and text. And phone call, email will actually allow you to put specific details in that data. So you're able to customize the message that goes out, and that includes the voicemail that would get left with the patient.
Mhm.
Text messenger are very basic. So it just says you have an appointment at this clinic at this time. Do you happen to have any of the details for preps or reminder data with you today, Anne, or should we continue this over email?
Probably over email because I don't know what needs to be specifically
Okay.
said. Yeah.
And we are interested in setting them up for both, correct? For both follow-up and new?
Yeah.
Okay.
I just don't think we're doing text, but I may be
Okay. And we
wrong.
have the ability to opt out on those, so you can set it up how it's very customizable.
Okay.
Raj, is there anything that you can think of in the data collection that we need to go over today, or should I jump back to the appointment book and show group session setup?
No, I think go ahead. Let's do the group sessions.
Sounds good. And are there any questions so far from VGH? Okay, let's keep moving. So group sessions, we booked a patient to this session, but I wanted to quickly show how those group sessions. Is Tiana back by chance?
No, not yet. Sorry.
Okay, that's no worries. Let's have a look at creating a group session. So group sessions are actually set up in the appointment book with a right-click actions, group session, create. And you get this window here that is the beginning of setting up the session. So HH rehab. I'm going to set up an exercise group. Here's where I would be able to customize the description of this group. So if this was spring, summer 2023, the capacity, open and shared. So shared sessions are sessions that allow the patient to participate in one or more instance of the group without having to be part of the entire series. It's kind of a wide open booking in the sense that this session's not going to restrict and make the patient be part of the very first session that was created. Open is a group session that allows patients to be scheduled in one or more instances of the group that are in the past. For example, a diabetes education group that a patient can join at any time is defined as an open group session. That kind of sounds like they function the same, we can play around with that, but most group sessions are set up, shared, and open. And so when we create a session, we started on a certain date. This would be February 13th. I know that I wanted this at, let's say, 11. And what you're seeing below is the option to set it up across multiple resources. We know that the physiologist is required, but for this session, do I also want to book to the nurse and have that group session double down on the resources? For your case, we only have one resource, so we wouldn't have this set up. And I'm going to uncheck that. And then recur, I need to set this up so that it's every week on Monday for 10 instances. I'm going to have the system check. It says there's a couple of conflicts, and that is because this slot actually doesn't open up until 11:15. So let me tweak that. And again, this is pre-booking of patients. This is setting up the actual sessions before we start to book the patients to them. So I'm just going to double check my work. This is my spring, summer 2023, max capacity of 10 patients. And I checked it for errors to make sure there was no conflicts and said, okay, are you sure you want to create this session? Yes. And so I've created another exercise group under this resource. Now I could book up to 10 patients on a given day. I also have the session set up throughout the spring. I said spring, summer, but I think we only, just for system purposes, put it out for 10 instances. And so if you see, we get out to May, that session does not exist yet. Any questions at all about setting up those sessions?
So do the group sessions then act as like a sub-resource? Because they're under certain columns, but then can you drag specifically into the group session?
In terms of the technical specs on how groups work, that's exactly right. They create an additional resource when we create these sessions. And it's kind of an independent functioning group session resource. However, they have to be created under a real resource as well.
Okay.
Unless we've predefined something that's very general. For example, a group session room that we create, that could always be something that functions independent of Alana's schedule. If we don't create another resource, like an actual resource, then everything's going to show up under Alana's schedule as well.
So if it was a separate resource technically,
Mm-hmm.
there still wouldn't be conflicts between Alana's schedule and the group session though, because you could see on the schedule, right, that there, in the case that there was 2 appointments taking place at the same time, you would be able to visibly see that, right? Because it's like there's 2 columns.
Exactly. Yep.
Okay.
So let's look back to, it would kind of sit outside like this.
Mm-hmm.
You could have your group session functioning outside of a normal running day. And that would technically allow you to book, 10 patients to this group session and then have your running, 1 patient, et cetera.
Okay.
And so, Anne, have you dealt with the request functionality then for neuroautology?
No, I've never used it.
You haven't seen appointment, you don't use, like, nobody's sending referrals or
Oh,
follow-ups done?
the request list. Yeah, I have.
You have, okay.
Sorry. Yeah.
So you're familiar with how this functions, and so when we start to talk about the referral to provincial to SLP, is it going to find, you can see that cardiac rehab, they want their referral to find their group. With yours, are they always brand new patients? And so we'll just call it new SLP new.
Yeah, I think so, because any follow-ups would be after she's seen them, and that would be her telling me
Okay,
to book them. Or I
sounds good.
guess, how would that work though? Because now it's paperless. For a follow-up, is there a way for her to send a request back to my work list to book them as a follow-up?
Yep, this is
Yep.
April from, I'm sorry.
No, please jump in.
Oh, okay, this is April from ambulatory. I'm your ambulatory analyst. So I'll be creating, follow-up orders for you.
Okay.
Yeah, and I have an example, on my computer, if you want to see what it could potentially look like. I'm just using a different example because I haven't built for you all yet.
Okay.
Michael, do you care?
No, please. And
Okay.
you're gonna show on the ordering side, so how that would come
Yeah.
across. Okay.
Yeah, but the example that I have was from psoriasis and phototherapy. So I'm gonna show like what the order looks like, and then we can kind of talk about once it's placed, then it shows up on the request list. So we just have to kind of use our imaginations here.
Okay.
Okay.
April, I just made you a co-host, April.
Okay, thank you. And just let me know whenever you all can see.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So like I said, I haven't built the follow-up order for your clinic yet. So this is a mock-up of another clinic. But yours would say something like follow-up clinic, VGH, Provincial Voice Care Resource Program. All right. And so the details within the order are going to be just like this, requested start date and time, the priority, where she can say, when she wants them to return, the type of appointment, probably a follow-up, right?
Mhm.
Visit modality, phone, in-person clinic, all these different options. And then she has a reason for visit field. And then we have also a special instructions field. I think I heard you mention something about her communicating some extra information to you, so she can use this field to do so if what we have here doesn't meet the mark. And then once she signs this, then this will show up in a request list. I think Michael was touching on that at one point on your side. So then you'll see what the SLP is requesting when the patient, for them to come back, basically.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
So this is what Alana puts into the system.
Yeah.
And then it goes on a list for me. And then again, I can just press complete request to book.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm gonna stop sharing.
Thank you.
Thanks for that.
Okay. Thank you.
And it'll definitely be an internal discussion, April, Vince, but there already is an order out there for follow-up clinic speech language pathology. If that's relevant to us, we may be reusing some of the orders. If not, well, again, an internal discussion.
Yeah, we typically give each clinic their own follow-up order, and then the referral orders we try to share those.
Got it.
But like you said, it'll be an internal discussion.
Thanks.
Mhm.
So just jumping back, after that order would have been placed by April, the order shows up here. You can see that for this clinic, they have a few different types of follow-up. They have an MD follow-up nurse. Yours will be pretty straightforward. It'll be one appointment type, maybe SLP follow-up, right-click, complete request, just like you're doing with your neurootology clinic. Referrals and follow-ups will show up on this list here.
Okay. In terms of referrals though, because a lot of them are also external, does this mean only like the follow-ups and internal referrals will be on this future request list? And then would the external referrals show up in a work queue monitor?
They would, exactly. Yep.
Okay,
And so what from the work queue monitor, you can start the booking process and get them over to a wait list, which functions the same way as this. So it's basically instead of request list by queue, you'll find your wait list. And we may need to talk about are the 3 lists required in that sense, in the sense of having their own queues. And from here, you do the same thing. So right click, complete request. But the difference is the details of those referrals are filled out by you manually based on that fax that you've received.
okay. And then also because Alana needs to triage everything before it's booked through the work queue, I guess I could move it to a referral encounter work list where she could triage. But for these internal referrals, since I'm not allowed to book them right away, how do I like share it with Alana from this list? Like, is it
So,
possible to move them to the referral encounter work list as well?
well, that piece of the work list, that's an additional discussion. But from here, you're going to be moving your requests over to the particular wait list. So what actually happens in the appointment book, the right click, move request, you pull them off this future list and you put them onto the appropriate wait list.
Okay.
And we're going to have a super detailed session where we go through all of the actual kind of triaging pieces, the work list pieces and everything there.
Okay.
But this is just a quick look at how they're managed, how those appointments are managed here in the book. That way they're not just sitting out here cluttering up your appointments to be scheduled. You pull them off and you put them in the appropriate place so that they can stage.
All right. Thanks.
Yep. All right. So for follow-ups, we're going to get in touch regarding appointment preps and appointment reminder preps. So what we want that wording to be, I'll actually have a questionnaire that kind of breaks down some of the specifics of automated appointment reminders, and I'll email that to you. We will. So I know that you're obviously busy, Anne, and before design, it would be great if we could at least be in touch over email. Is that okay to reach out your way?
Yeah, sounds
Awesome.
good.
Great. Does anybody have any additional questions or follow-up for today? Jump back to. It seems like we got a great start to getting this designed and kind of hashed out. I appreciate everybody jumping on, and it seems like we're good to go ahead and end the session early.
Actually, I just talked to Tiana. She just called and she said she doesn't know much about the groups. It was Alana that can't talk to her about it. So if you guys could connect with her via email and just CC myself, Tiana, and David, and we can jump on in.
That's great. I'm going to take a note now here. Group email Alana.
Sorry, Pinky, could you just repeat what you just said? There's somebody you needed more in the sessions?
About the group bookings. So it wasn't really Tiana who knew anything about it. Alana, the SLP, was the one who brought it up to her.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
She would know more about it. So if you guys connect with her via email regarding like what she's needing for these group bookings, then we can and if CCS,
gotcha.
yeah.
it would be great to, we'll get that hashed out so that we can show you a custom one at design, whether we use it or not.
Awesome.
Great. Thank you all. We will certainly be in touch, and thanks for your time.
Thank
everybody.
you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye,
Bye, everyone.
guys.